News tonight in the Deshaun Watson story. 25th woman has now filed a civil lawsuit.
Accuser, a licensed massage therapist who was not part of the original group of accusers. Now the question is, what happens next for the Cleveland Browns?
I warned you this could happen. I mean, it was very obvious that this was going to happen. Not that Deshaun Watson was going to get another lawsuit, but the timing at which he got this lawsuit was very interesting. And there's only one reason that we got it at this moment. So we're going to talk about this latest lawsuit, the timing of the lawsuit, why we're hearing about it now as opposed to the summertime, and also how this affects the Cleveland Browns season. Before we get to the content, we are doing a $100 giveaway to any subscriber that turns on my notifications on this channel. We do these giveaways weekly. I'm going to announce a winner at the end of this video. And don't worry, just because you weren't subscribed before this video started doesn't mean you haven't entered for next week's giveaway. But be very aware, guys, there is a bot in the comment section down below that's telling you to text him on Telegram, which is not me at all whatsoever. I will announce the winner in the video, not in the comment section. Now that we get all of that out of the way, break! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Man, the Cleveland Browns have had a very interesting offseason and a much more peculiar regular season. You see, the Cleveland Browns pillaged, not even traded, but pillaged my favorite team, the Dallas Cowboys, and got themselves Amari Cooper. After that, they went and got themselves a superstar at the quarterback position while alienating Baker Mayfield in the process. We have a whole video on how Baker Mayfield completely up his career by deciding to leave the Cleveland Browns to join the Carolina Panthers, who are in a horrible situation right now, and how this literally ruined his career just because of his ego. I'll leave a link to that in the end screen. But the Cleveland Browns have made a plethora of moves this offseason, and it seemed like they were going to be a contender coming into the regular season. Unfortunately for them, Deshaun Watson was supposed to be suspended for the entire season. Now, the reason I'm saying this is kind of peculiar that the NFL decided,
hey, you're going to be suspended for the entire season except for the last 6 games of the season.
I might be wondering, Mike, why would they do that? Why would the NFL bother to do that? That's a very strange suspension. I don't think we've ever seen a suspension for this amount of time. It's usually a 4-game suspension or an 8-game suspension or a 6-game suspension, never an 11-game suspension. Well, you see, something I really appreciate about the NFL, man, and I'm sure you appreciate it about the NFL, is the fact that they really love a good narrative. They will never miss out on the opportunity to have Deshaun Watson play his first game for the Cleveland Browns against his former team, the Houston Texans. They would not miss out on the eyeballs that will be tuning in to watch that game. So you could thank the NFL schedule makers, Browns fans, because if it wasn't for that, I am convinced Deshaun Watson would not be playing this year. And ultimately, Deshaun Watson finally has been cleared to return to the Cleveland Browns. Now, here's the report we have. The Cleveland Browns quarterback has officially reached the first stage of his tiered reinstatement process during his 11-game misconduct suspension, receiving clearance by the NFL to return to the team's practice facility this past Monday. As part of the terms of his suspension, which also included a $5 million fine, he can now begin his reintegration back into the locker room and team structure. However, there's a long list of stipulations that Watson must follow, including taking part in only conditioning, weightlifting, team meetings, rehabilitation, and other functions that do not include practice or play. Here's what his head coach Kevin Stefanski had to say about the very interesting situation that they're now in.
But he seems in a good spot. He's a very positive person, so I think his leadership in any situation is welcome.
The Cleveland Browns are in a very interesting situation. You see, they had a very good offseason. They went all in on the Deshaun Watson trade. They literally bribed the man to come over to Cleveland, giving him a contract that doesn't seem like other teams are willing to give other QBs. A fully guaranteed $230 million contract. I mean, Aaron Rodgers didn't get that. Kyler Murray didn't get that. Russell Wilson didn't get that, but Russell Wilson already pulled off a robbery against the Denver Broncos. No offense, Bronco Nation. And now the Browns are in a very unique situation. You see, in the very beginning of the season, I said, if the Browns wanted to be contenders and win the AFC North, they need to make sure that they win those games against those beatable teams. Unfortunately for them, the Browns currently sit at 2-3 with losses to the New York Jets, who, granted, that was an insane game that I am really sad for Browns fans for losing. I mean, probably the best game of the season so far. They lost to the Atlanta Falcons, which I think they should have won, and they nearly beat the LA Chargers, but they lost to them as well, in yet another heartbreaking game. Ideally, if the Browns want to be in contention by the time Watson comes back for those last 6 games, you would think that they could only afford to lose about 7 to 8 games. Watson comes back for the final 6 games, but also bear in mind that he didn't really look like he was in tip-top shape during preseason. Now, I know it's preseason, but this is a new QB coming to a new team with a brand new head coach, with brand new wide receivers, and so far, we haven't seen a lot of success with new quarterbacks in new systems so far. I mean, Carson Wentz has only won 2 games with the Washington Commanders. Matt Ryan has had a slow start to the season. Russell Wilson, we don't even want to get to that situation. So there's a lot of volatility to the Cleveland Browns season, and this could potentially derail the Cleveland Browns season once again. You see, it's really interesting to me that we're getting this report right after Deshaun Watson officially met all of his parameters for reinstatement. And I wouldn't be surprised if on November 14th, we got another report like this, and on December 4th that we got another report like this. And honestly, it's a good thing that Deshaun Watson is going to be required to continue meeting mandatory counseling and mental health evaluations, because this is going to consistently pop up. So for those of you guys that didn't know, Deshaun Watson is facing a brand new lawsuit stemming from a 2020 massage. Now, what these allegations suggest are obviously horrible, but I'll be remiss if I didn't say that the timing of this one wasn't a little peculiar. And I already told you guys in the summer, don't be shocked if this resurfaces once Deshaun Watson slowly begins to resume activity. Because according to this article, another woman has filed a civil lawsuit against Deshaun Watson, alleging the suspended Cleveland Browns quarterback pressured her into oral during a massage session in 2020. It is the 26th known lawsuit filed against Deshaun Watson, accusing him of inappropriate sexual misconduct or assault during massages. In the lawsuit filed Thursday in Harris County, Texas, Watson is accused of soliciting the plaintiff over Instagram with a direct message for a massage at a Houstonian hotel room in Texas in December of 2020 while he was a member of the Texans. That Watson, quote unquote, continually pressured the plaintiff into massaging his private area before he, quote unquote, removed his towel and, quote unquote, offered to let her get on top. According to the lawsuit, the plaintiff, quote unquote, refused to have with Watson. However, he was able to pressure her into oral. Watson paid the plaintiff $300 for her services, although her normal charge was $115 for an hour massage. According to the lawsuit, the plaintiff has suffered from severe depression and anxiety since the alleged incident. My client's experience with Deshaun Watson follows a series of disturbingly similar encounters reported by more than 20 women who have filed suit against the NFL superstar, said the woman's lawyer Anissa Nguyen. Like so many others, my client spent nearly 2 years struggling to cope with the shame and trauma from all that he has stolen from her and the daily pain that has become her reality. Knowing your story will bring on the hard conversations, criticisms, and even victim blaming. The strength and bravery of these other women gave my client the courage to stand up and speak out. She seeks justice not only for herself and her own healing, but for the more than 20 women who refuse to be shamed into silence and the victims who have yet to come forward. Watson's attorney Rusty Hardin told ESPN's John Barr on Friday that he's going to refrain from commenting on this latest lawsuit until he learns the identity of the plaintiff. In every other civil case filed against Watson, the court has ordered the plaintiff to be identified by name. This has been a common tactic by Deshaun Watson's lawyer. I mean, he's done this repeatedly. Every single time someone has come out and accused Deshaun Watson of something of this sort, his lawyer came out and said,
Yo, like, identify yourself.
And you know what's crazy? I didn't really acknowledge this during the time that I was covering this in the summer, and I'll admit that, but this puts a significant amount of pressure on the plaintiff. We don't really realize this, and I think I've realized this from my own personal experience, and also while I was covering things like the Brett Favre situation and how Jen Sturger, the woman that received a dick pic from Brett Favre, was identified as the Brett Favre girl and saw significantly less job opportunities in the future. When a woman comes out and says, yo, this is who I am, and identifies herself and says this horrible thing something happens to me, unfortunately, there's a stigma behind it. So this is a tactic that Rusty Hardin has been using in order to really put pressure on these plaintiffs. If you really want to come out and file a civil lawsuit and pursue this route, gotta identify yourself, which is kind of crazy and a wild tactic. Now, what's more important to this is how does this affect Deshaun Watson? Well, so far, this is kind of more low-key than the other reports that we received in the past. I think this is a situation where if we see more of these lawsuits come out, then the NFL may feel some pressure to do something, but I don't necessarily know if that's the case. This could derail Deshaun Watson's season, but it's not going to derail it currently. This isn't the straw that's going to break the camel's back. There's going to need to be more information and more reports that come out in order for the NFL to feel the pressure to do something. And that's even echoed by NFL spokesman Brian McCarthy, who said in a statement Friday that Watson's 11-game suspension will stand as is, but he could face more discipline if it is found that he has further violated the league's code of conduct, which that statement alone is insane. It means that if more of this stuff comes out, then Watson could get a much more severe punishment. Now, McCarthy said that Watson's status remains unchanged. We will monitor developments in the newly filed litigation. Any conduct that warrants further investigation or possible additional sanctions would be addressed within the personal conduct policy. The rest of the article gives us some background that the 2 grand juries in Texas declined to pursue criminal charges against Watson earlier this year, but Sue L. Robinson, an independent arbiter jointly appointed by the league and the players union, found that the NFL carried its burden to prove by a preponderance of the evidence that Mr. Watson engaged in sexual assault. Robinson also concluded in her report that Watson's behavior was both egregious and predatory, but the NFL didn't ultimately uphold Sue Robinson's punishment of 4 games, and her argument for the reason why he only should get 4 games is historically, the NFL's faced situations like this before, and historically, when they have faced situations like this, it was a 4-game suspension. Now that there's significantly more pressure on the NFL, they're like, oh, no, it can't just be 4 games. It has to be a little bit more intense than that. So ultimately, we're going to keep an eye on this situation. The timing of this is interesting. Watson's allowed back in the team facility on October 14th. This new report comes out. Maybe on November 14th, we get something similar. Maybe the week that he could finally play football again, we get something similar. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about all this, man. Congratulations to G Smith for winning this week's giveaway. Thank you for your support and having my subscriptions and the notifications on. We run these giveaways every single week. Love you all. I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.